Have you guys played this game? It's so good! Dragon Ball Z Infinite World is what Budokai 3 should have been. And by that, what I basically mean is it made one major change that improved the entire experience. It eliminated Dragon Rush mode. Remember that annoying rock, paper, scissors thing I mentioned in my top 8 DBZ games video? Yeah, that. Speaking of that video, you may have noticed that Infinite World isn't on that list. Why is that, you may ask? Honestly, it's because the game had such poor reviews I never bothered trying it until now. But that was a huge mistake. This game is fantastic. Why is it so critically panned and hated? Well, I have a few guesses. Number 1, this game came out way later than it probably should have, in late 2008. Infinite World came out after Budokai Tenkaichi 1, 2, and 3, after the release of the PS3 and Xbox 360, even after Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit on the next-gen consoles at the time. And yet Infinite World was released exclusively for the PS2. Seeing as though professional critics often judge games for their graphics more than they should, it's no wonder this game was so poorly received. Secondly, this game's single-player mode starts out on a terrible mission. For some reason, Dimps, the game's developer, thought it would be a good idea that immediately following the fight with Raditz at the beginning of the game, you do a mission where you just collect hexagons. You know, that thing Goku and his friends are all known for doing in the show? Their favorite pastime, collecting hexagons. Not only that, but these segments control pretty poorly. You have 3 different methods of moving. This slow trot, this super speedy boost dash that you can only use a couple times in a row before you run out of energy and have to refill it, and a dodge either to the right or the left. The funny thing is, there's no limit on how much you can do the dodge, so it ends up being a lot faster moving around the map if you just consistently dodge to the left or the right. I'm sorry, but if dodging consistently over and over is faster than your regular running speed, you done goofed. And finally, just not that many people played Infinite World. It came out so late, no one was willing to give it a chance. Atari didn't really advertise the game, at least from what I can tell, and so there just weren't that many people around to say good things about it. Everyone had moved on to bigger and better things. Everyone's favorite DBZ game, Tenkaichi 3, had been out for a year already, and this was before Battle of the Gods, so Dragon Ball was sort of beginning to lose its momentum. But despite all of that, this game is fantastic. Not only did they get rid of Dragon Rush, but since Budokai 3 they added in more characters, more stages, a ton of actual cutscenes similar to the ones in Budokai 1. You can't really compare it to Tenkaichi too much since they're completely different games. Sometimes you want a more over-the-shoulder DBZ simulator, sometimes you want a more traditional side-by-side DBZ fighting game. Infinite World is the pinnacle of that later category with more characters, stages, and story than either Budokai 3 or Burst Limit. And I haven't even gotten to the gameplay yet. Infinite World takes the refined mechanics of Burst Limit and plops them into the Budokai game engine, doubling the frames per second, which I think is a crucial part of any fighting game, and adding in its own touches as well. Special attacks are performed, as they were in Burst Limit, simply by holding down square and a designated direction on the D-pad or analog stick, not unlike Super Smash Bros. Actually. In addition to this, you can dodge in any direction, perform a grab move or a rapid-fire key blast move, charge your energy, perform a quicker dash, transform, enter burst mode, pull all sorts of different combos just by mixing up the basic kicks and punches. This is the perfect design for a fighting game in my opinion, because it lowers the skill floor while raising the skill ceiling. Anyone can get a feel for this game right away. Every button performs one action that you can easily memorize after playing just a couple rounds. There's a skill list with combos listed, but there's really no need to memorize all these because you can just try out different attacks and see what works. In other fighting games, the person who knows how to pull off combos and knows which character can do what has a huge advantage over those who don't. But in Dragon Ball Z Infinite World, everyone can essentially learn how to play as every character within a matter of minutes. The trick then comes down to timing your attacks just right and anticipating what move your opponent is going to make next. And you know what? Despite that hexagon searching minigame I mentioned earlier, once I got into it, I actually really enjoyed Infinite World Story Mode. It had fun battles, it was extremely challenging, like seriously, even on easy mode it's really hard. And even some of these silly little minigames they threw in there can be fun if you're as big of a DBZ nerd as I am and you give them a chance. They do a good job of switching it up enough so that it never gets boring. There's the hexagon collecting and the fighting, and then there's a minigame where you have to try and catch King Kai's pet monkey Bubbles, one where you have to press buttons in a correct order, one where you get to fly around like in Budokai 3's story mode, these special fights where you have to complete certain conditions, and there's even this one weird minigame that's like a rhythm game without the rhythm part. The story mode is just all over the place, and kind of great if you have a low attention span for video games like I do. The graphics, music, and style of the game may be the same as Budokai 3, but everything Infinite World brings to the table makes it the ultimate side-by-side Dragon Ball Z fighting game in my book. If I were to go back and include this on my top 8 DBZ games now, I'd probably put it at spot number 2, only because I still prefer the over-the-shoulder games a little more. But from now on, I think this may be my go-to DBZ game when I have friends over. It's easy to get a feel for, they can pick from tons of different characters and stages, and it's just a fantastic game. But don't take my word for it. This game is like $25 used on Amazon. If you're a Dragon Ball fan, or even just a fan of fighting games, do yourself a favor and pick this one up. You're in for a good time. Thanks for watching, and here's the obligatory reminder to like, comment, subscribe. Alright, do those things, maybe. Yeah, cool.